welcome. Like I said, we're just going to get into a quick program overview of the 2026 New Jersey Climate Resilience Community-Based Arts Project. So, as some of you probably already know from looking at the call, we have 4 participating community-based organizations. This project is a program of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and us, the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. And Devin, I don't know, do you want to say anything about the DEP before we get started? If not, that's okay.
Sorry. So sure, yeah. I'm with New Jersey's DEP Coastal Management Program. This has probably been about 6 years that we've been running this project, so we're always excited to see what each year is going to bring. But I'm sure Chris will get into this. Really, we're looking for artists to partner with our community-based organizations to create a climate hazard or coastal hazard art installation and work really closely with community members to get them involved and figure out what they can do to help their community when they're facing any of these coastal hazards. So I'll let Chris take it over, but thank you.
Great, thanks, Devin. Okay, so like I mentioned, we have 4 participating community-based organizations: the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, Camden Fireworks, the Long Beach Island Foundation for the Arts and Sciences, and the City of Hoboken. And all 4 of those places are represented here today, and we'll be taking your questions at the end of this short overview. So most importantly, is we want you to understand the 2 main goals of this call. One is this should be a project about coastal flooding and climate resilience. Your job as the artist is to communicate these topics and these concepts to the local communities. And equally important is the project shouldn't just be communicating these concepts to the local community, but should be drawing these communities in, engaging these communities, and hopefully getting them to participate in what you're doing. So it's not just something you're doing for an audience per se, it's something you're doing with a community who will also be your audience. But those are the 2 most important things to remember as you're putting your proposal together. And of course, it's a call for artists that is an opportunity for you to show your work, whether it's an exhibition of some kind or performance of some kind or some other idea. Eligibility. Adult visual artists who live in New Jersey or within 100 miles of the state border are eligible. And this call is open to individual artists or artist teams. And as we'll get into a little bit later, there's a lot of latitude within this call. So there's going to be lots of different kinds of mediums and disciplines represented and a lot of different configurations of teams executing these projects. But for each project, the budget remains the same. So we're looking forward to different approaches to it. And it can be artists, it can be teams, but same budget either way. Now you apply through CAFE, callforentry.org. This is a free website for artists to use. The deadline is Thursday, July 30th, 2026, and we cannot be flexible with that deadline. And only 1 proposal per artist or artist team may be submitted. So it's important to really look through what we're going to show you in a minute, the site plan document, and get all the details about all 4 of these locations, because your proposal can only be about 1 location. So that's going to be a really helpful document for you to have and to do a fair amount of research on your own about each location. And what are these locations? Atlantic County Utilities Authority, Camden Fireworks, City of Hoboken, Long Beach Island Foundation for the Arts and Sciences. You see there the little arrow pointing to where you can get the site plan document, and Danielle can also share that link in the chat for you because it is sort of within the call itself. So Long Beach Island Foundation for the Arts and Sciences is on Long Beach Island in New Jersey. City of Hoboken is a major city in northern New Jersey. Camden Fireworks is in Camden, New Jersey, one of the other biggest cities in the state. And Atlantic County Utilities Authority is partially in Atlantic City. And where else is it, Amy?
Egg Harbor Township.
Egg Harbor Township. And
Yeah.
I have not been there, but just in case it's not clear, it's actually like a very rural looking campus. It's not what you might think, right? It's very a rural location.
Well, we're near in between Pleasantville and Egg Harbor Township's fairly developed, but it's not a city. And our site is about 360 acres, our Egg Harbor Township site.
Got you. Thank you, Amy. I
Mhm.
just wanted to point out that we have a lot of diversity in these locations. Two major cities in the state, an island, and also this semi-suburban, I guess, campus in Atlantic County. And I encourage you all to read about the locations in the document that Danielle just shared in the chat. So in the call itself, you'll see that it asks for a narrative bio about you. And this is basically your resume. And what's important to provide is your experience with projects like this, most of all. It's basically, your resume. And the more you can tell the selection committee about yourself and your past work, the better. Now, for the proposal itself, I think it's simplest just to say that the more clear and detailed you are, the better your chances of success. Try not to leave too much to the imagination on the part of the selection committee. You don't want to leave anybody scratching their head like, I don't get it. I don't see how this is going to work. Just be very clear and very detailed. As you can see in the slide, who, what, when, where, how. Just make your vision for the project really clear. Timeline, budget, specific details about the location. Just be very mindful of that the clearer you are, the better your chances are of standing out to the selection committee. Work samples, very easy to upload your work samples in the CAFE platform. For this, we're looking for up to 5 still images of completed work, just showing off what you've done. 3 still images of sketches related to your proposal, and or 3 audio or video samples, depending on what medium or discipline you're working in. So like I mentioned, the budget is $24,000 for each project. So that should cover artist fees, supplies, materials, travel, lodging as needed to realize the proposed project. And like I mentioned before, it might just be you, the artist, doing everything, or you might have basically a staff or a team. There's a lot of latitude here. We encourage you to be creative and strategic with the budget. And also in executing the project and planning the project, you'll be working with your partner community-based organization. So there'll be some planning and budgeting in partnership with the orgs. Okay, so I think Danielle, you wrote this, right? So this is just a simple illustration of, not so great application, much better application. What I was saying about being clear, being detailed, and being thoughtful. The more you can tell us and the clearer you are about what you are proposing, the better. The selection committee is going to appreciate any amount of elbow grease you put into it. And if it's obvious to them that you are serious and you are capable of executing an impressive project, it's just going to work in your favor. Even if you are not like a world-class writer, you don't have to be to make a rock solid proposal. And I'm going to move forward, even though this is really funny. But this presentation is going to be available to you afterwards, so you can always return to it. Okay, so examples of other work with the same theme, and some of these pieces are actually from past cycles of this program. The first one is not. This is just a cool project we discovered that was done in Scotland by 2 artists, and this is at a museum and cultural center in Scotland on the coast. And what they did was they made these sort of mysterious glowing lines throughout the campus, showing where they expect the sea level to be in the not so distant future. And so very simple, but also kind of scary if you know what it's about. And the second one here is called Monmouth Beach Rising, and this was part of this program, the New Jersey Climate Resilience Art Project program, the last cycle, I believe. And as you can see, it's a very cool projection, on this building, the Monmouth Beach Cultural Center in New Jersey. And I included another one at daytime just because it was really cool looking and different. So it's sort of like this ocean image being projected on this building in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Oops, sorry. And then next, honestly, don't know too much about these pieces, but I'm just putting them out there because they're environmental art pieces. And I just wanted to give everybody an idea of, all the room you have to be creative with this call. You're really starting something from scratch. So like I said, can't tell you much about these, but something to consider, or maybe just spark your imagination. Same with this. This is like apparently an indoor theater piece, but it's about climate change. And this is another example from this program. Another one done in Monmouth County, Long Branch, New Jersey, the Poseidon Project. And as you can see, it's dance and music, and it's outside. It looks like it's possibly on a stormy day, but we encourage you to be creative. And if you're a musician, dancer, performer of any kind, your proposal might get selected. Another fun one from this program, again, this one was in Atlantic City, and it's called Water Table, and it's an in-ground mosaic. I believe it was made with recycled waste materials. I forget. I wasn't working on the program at this time, but in a video that Danielle will share in the chat, you'll be able to see a bunch of these projects from the Climate Resilience Art Project program. This is one of them, and so is the next one. This was all the way down in Bivalve, New Jersey, which is like as far south as you can get before Cape May, I guess. And, just another example of like the diversity of proposals we received. These are just little ceramic houses on posts, and with little, I guess, tidbits of information about coastal flooding. And this piece is also included in that video that Danielle is sharing. Okay, so how will selection be made? The selection committee is, first of all, looking for artistic excellence of the proposed project and work samples provided. Second, potential for the project to further the goals of the program, which, as I said, the project has to be communicating the concepts of coastal flooding and climate resilience, while also planning to really draw the community in and hopefully get the community to actively participate. That's the third one. Potential for positive experiences or interactions with the proposed work by New Jersey communities. And number 4, artist experience with community-based projects, exhibitions, public performances, or other relevant experiences. Obviously, experience is a great thing to have. It's not a requirement, but if you have experience working with communities and working on community-based projects, that's great, and we definitely want to hear about that. Safety and environmental considerations of the proposed project. Always safety first, I guess, for any proposal and anything in general. But for this project, you're definitely going to want to take into consideration being mindful of the location, because we don't want to cause any harm with our project. So something to think about, and something you're definitely going to want to talk to your partner organization about is, you don't want to do any damage to the location or the surrounding environment. Feasibility of the project as proposed or with minor changes. Like I was saying before, a detailed budget and detailed timeline and detailed, plan is really going to make for a stronger application and will increase your chances of being selected. Community-based organizations' ability and interest in partnering with the artist or artists for the project's implementation. This is essentially a partnership with an organization. So when the selection committee makes its decisions, you're going to be working with this organization. And so another great reason to do your research, look at that site plan document, really know what you need to know in terms of executing your project at your location. We're also sharing with you links to these organizations: LBI Foundation, Cannon Fireworks, Atlantic County Utilities Authority, and City of Hoboken. I think for that one, I specifically provided the link to the actual site in Hoboken, not the City of Hoboken site, which you can easily find if you need to. That's going to help you catch the organization's eye if they see that you really do understand the location and have put the time in to make something, specific to the location and something that will be awesome at the location. And like I keep saying, clarity of the proposal. The clearer the better. You do not have to be an amazing writer, but if you make a clear and well thought out proposal, it's really going to work in your favor. Okay, artist selection timeline. The call went out June 17th. The deadline is July 30th, no exceptions. And selected artists will be notified October 7th. After that, the selected artists will begin meeting with their community-based organization hosts, and project development and implementation planning will begin. And then the fun part, development and display of art installations happens between next spring and fall. So really simple timeline, and the selected artists will be notified October 7th. Okay, so how to get help. If you are having technical issues with the Café platform, you need to reach out to Café, and the link for help is there. They're really responsive, they're super helpful. So if you have any technical issues with that site while submitting your proposal, just reach out to them and they'll get back to you quickly. Any other questions you can send directly to me. My email and number is right there, Christopher Benincasa. And if for whatever reason I'm not in the office, I'm out, you can reach out to either of my colleagues, Danielle Bursk or Stephanie Novak, who are both here today. And now it's question time. So I'm going to stop sharing, and if everybody, all the panelists can unmute themselves and get ready for questions, that would be great. Okay. Opening my chat. Okay. All right. So what questions do we have?
So you want me to read questions from the chat for you, Chris? Or I could read them. And
Sure. Sorry, I didn't have my chat open until just now. I didn't see them coming.
That's all right.
That would be great. Thank you.
So it looks like first question. Is there specific information, for instance, oh, sorry, here, got many things open. I can't read the whole question. Coastal flood evacuation routes, specific directions for emergency preparedness or flood mitigation around homes, for example, that the DEP feels would be particularly useful to communicate through artwork supported by this call.
Okay, so that's a Devin question. Did you hear that, Devin?
Can you repeat it one more time? I'm so sorry.
Okay. Is there specific information around coastal flooding that you are hoping the artists will communicate through their projects?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. But I think it's probably site specific for each location. Each location, like Chris was saying, is very unique. They all have their own issues that they may experience with climate change or coastal flooding. So I do think it's important once you're paired with your artist, to kind of talk to them and see what issues they're facing and what they want to focus on for their community. DEP definitely does have resources. Feel free to check out our climate resilience website. We have some resources on there on some of the things that we work on. But if you are paired with an artist, we're more than happy to work with your CBO and you to get the information that you need for your project if it's more specific. But it's really site specific and can vary. So not sure if that helped.
Great. Thank you, Devin. Next question, which I think is sort of for all of the Well, actually, this one's for you, Chris. And then I'll do one that's for everybody.
Okay.
Can you clarify if there is one project selected for each site or if only one site will be selected?
Yes, so we're talking about a total of 4 projects, one for each of the 4 locations. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is from a ceramic artist. It looks like they're asking if any of the locations have access to kilns on site, setting up community events for glazes and installation. Winterize, I'm not sure what that means. And if they were interested in pouring concrete for a concrete footing, what is the permanence of these pieces?
Well, I'll answer part of that. The point of this program is not permanence, for one thing. So we can just put that aside. It should be thought of as not just an exhibition or performance, but as an event. So they're not looking for a permanent installation. Now, whether or not you and the organization decide to make it permanent somehow, depending on the nature of the project, that's different. But for this program, we're not looking for anything permanent to be done. And what was the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
It seems to be if any of the locations have access to equipment for making ceramics, kilns, things like that.
Okay.
We do.
Okay, so Long Beach Island Foundation does.
Hoboken has a kiln, like we have artists, we have an artist like it's not a center, but a building with a bunch of artists, and there is a kiln there, but it's not on the site. The site of the work is at a park along the water.
Right.
And we do have a kiln. And we do have a kiln at Camden Fireworks as well.
Oh, excellent. That's awesome. Okay.
Thank you. Annie, you might as well stay unmuted. The next question for Hoboken specifically, what kind of sound light projection installations would be realistic at Maritime Park, especially around power access, evening programming, and public safety?
I don't know. But I know that we have, the park is being built even as we speak, so it's not finished yet. But we have included gobo projections on the 3 of the light posts just as part of the install in anticipation of wanting to do projections. But I can tell you that I'm really excited by the idea and would be happy to work with public safety and the whole, actually everyone in cultural affairs is really excited by this project. So I think it's never been done before, so we don't know, but you would have a willing partner.
Thanks, Annie.
Great, thank you. Next question is for you, Daniela. The artist wants to know about finding the specific dimensions and area at LBIF for a potential mural to submit an accurate sketch. Are you allowed to reach out to get that info from them? Actually, I'm gonna suggest not. We're asking artists not to reach out and inundate all of our community partners with individual questions, but to either funnel those through us. Daniela, is there anything you'd like to speak about your potential mural location?
We absolutely have space and areas for mural installations. They vary depending on the artist and their work, but yes, there's wall space indoors, but mostly outdoors. Indoors are pretty full.
Thanks. And maybe I'll elaborate more and say, at this point, we're not paying anyone for their proposal. We think that artists should be paid for their work. So, I don't know that you'd have to have 100% accurate by the square foot sketch for what your proposal is. We'd be much more interested to learn about your ideas for how you would do a mural project with the community and some examples of your previous work and perhaps sort of a rough draft of what you think you might want to create with the community, as opposed to here is my proposal for a mural that's 20 feet by 40 feet. Next question is, if you design with a specific site in mind, does it automatically exclude you from the other locations?
I would say yes. Because each proposal is for one specific location. You have to choose. So again, that's why we encourage you to read that site plan doc, because it's going to tell you a lot of information about the sites, and also the links we provided for the organizations and sites will tell you a lot. So yes, the proposal should be about one specific location out of the 4.
Right. And the next question, this artist is curious if we have found a sweet spot with the community engagement. For example, is the community lively and involved in previous exhibits? Is there a way to estimate how much community participation has been the average? I think I should answer this actually, because I've been working on this project for the past 6 years. We are not working with the same communities every year, so that's hard to say. But I can tell you, if you look at the site details document, each of the folks in this room from our community organizations talked about the ways they would help the artist get connected with their communities. I think that's the best way for you to figure out how much you could expect. And also, you know, these folks are going to help look at every proposal that comes in. And if you tell them I'm going to get 1 million people there and everyone's going to put one thumbprint on this 27-foot mural, they might say, hey, that's not quite realistic. And they probably wouldn't pick that proposal. I think, you know, looking at what they've told you they're willing to do to help get community out, looking at who these communities are through the information that's provided should help you figure out, you know, do they have summer camps coming through on a regular basis? Or are they the kind of place that people are going to walk through in their day-to-day lives? Folks are going to come and recreate in these locations, and some kind of special event might have to be held to encourage the community to come in. I think there's different ways of interpreting how you can get communities engaged. And hopefully we've provided the information to help you assess that somewhat for each unique place.
Great thing to include in your proposal is how you plan to engage in community.
Exactly. All right, next question. Is the information in the call regarding each location's specific climate issue?
Sorry, what was it?
Is the information in the call, is there information in the call regarding each location's specific climate issues?
Oh, well, there is information to be had for sure, but the issue is the same for each location. The issue is coastal flooding caused by climate change and climate resilience. So we're not asking you to go beyond that, but we are asking you to research climate resilience and coastal flooding, specifically pertaining to these locations. So part of the reason these locations are the 4 locations is because they experience coastal flooding, and climate resilience therefore is very important to these communities. So climate resilience, coastal flooding, those are the 2 concepts for the project.
Thank you. The next question is, will the site
resilience and coastal flooding for these communities? What kind of deliverable or specific outcome are you hoping?
Awesome.
That's okay. Next question is, will the site partners provide any kind of ongoing maintenance, project photography, or PR, or is that all the responsibility of the artists?
Good question. I can answer for Hoboken. I mean, we do have a communications team at City Hall, so we will certainly help with publicity. And we do have, again, like we don't know what the art's going to be. And I understand that it's not intended to be permanent, but we do have a fund for public art. So we have a budget to maintain our art once we have it. So it really depends on what the art ends up being.
I'll also jump in from DEP. Nothing is set in stone just yet, but I do want to share that we are looking into putting aside a budget ourselves to have a photographer to attend these events and gather some photos and stuff that we can keep. In years past, we have asked the CBO or their artists to provide the photos or videos to us just for documentation and reporting purposes for this grant. But hopefully we will get approved for some funding and we can have a photographer on site, whether it's covering the event or if it's in addition to whatever documentation you guys have planned.
For sure. And then I'd say the same for Camden Fireworks. We do a lot of internal photography and videography, as well as a big focus on our social media presence. So there will be a lot of opportunities for exposure and documentation along the way, because public art is so integral to what we do. So we do have those resources.
And I'd say too, for the ACUA, we have a small but mighty communications team, and we would, we're very excited about the opportunity to share all this with the public. So we're there for you.
And I'll add, so do we. We have photographers, we have an exhibition staff, we have a lot of support for artists. So we would be happy to help any artist succeed with their project.
And I'll just add that the Arts Council typically does press releases about projects like this, so you can expect that probably. I'm not in charge of communications, but
Yeah.
general practice over here.
Yeah, and I would also add that if there is specific kind of PR or maintenance that your project requires, that you're clear about it in your proposal. I mean, if you're expecting someone to come out and power wash something every morning, that might not be feasible. If you're expecting that, people are making sure that it's not, covered in litter or leaves after a storm, that probably is more feasible. So just being clear in your proposal, what kind of ongoing maintenance you would need for this project would be helpful.
Could I add something?
Sure.
I think for us in particular, because we are across the street from the ocean, the fragility of your piece or performance or activity is really important. We're so weather dependent that if your piece will be impacted in any way by weather, it would be great to know that in advance.
Great. Thank you, Danielle. All right, next question is for you, Jaslyn. Does Camden Fireworks have a preference for Liney Park, empty lots, corner park, street side project, etc.?
We don't. The climate resilience issues in Camden are vast, and so we're really open to all different forms of proposals and these types of locations. And because the locations that are mentioned are quite similar, right? We have flood zones all over Camden. Once we review the proposals and then speak with our county officials regarding locations that they're interested in as well as taking community input, we will be able to kind of assign this project to a location that fits best. So we are open to just kind of exploring all the possible outcomes and options.
Great, thank you. Next question is back to Hoboken. Are there specific Hoboken community groups you hope the selected artist will engage with beyond the skaters? For example, waterfront residents, youth groups, climate groups, schools, or park organizations?
There are several organizations in Hoboken that are active around the waterfront and for climate change. So the Fund for a Better Waterfront. There's, I believe, Hoboken Outdoor Adventures that does the kayaking and in Hoboken Cove. So there are groups that I think would naturally, Hoboken has a green team. I think there are, and we're small, like we're a mile square city. So I think there are lots of opportunities to engage and different groups that would welcome being invited in to participate. And I would be happy to share with artists. Yeah.
And I should just add that it's definitely not the skateboarding community is definitely not supposed to be the only audience.
It's just the skate park. It's like, I mean, they had a lot to say about the development of the park, of course. And probably would have something to say about art in the park as well, which I think would be excellent.
Yeah. Think of the audience for that being the people who just live in Hoboken.
Right.
And I would add actually that it kind of depends on the project, right? Some projects might be most appropriate for families with children, and other projects might decidedly not be appropriate for families with children. But understanding who you hope to engage with in your proposal would be helpful for everyone to understand. All right, next question I think is for the group / Chris. Would a series of make and take events without a permanent installation be acceptable to you?
Oh, I mean, it could be. It could be, depending on the plan. I mean, I'm assuming you mean inviting the community in to make art and then take it home with them. I'm sure that or a variation of that of some kind could make sense, but it depends on your proposal.
Any CBOs in the room opposed to that idea?
No, I agree. It depends. Whatever you as an artist are excited by and passionate about is going to come through in your proposal. So that's really what I think we're looking for, is something that someone gets really excited by and wants to do.
So next is a quick follow-up. The application does allow the applicants to select a specific CBO or to check the any CBO box. And the artist is asking, can we designate a subset of CBOs that would make sense for the project we have in mind?
I suppose anything is possible, but I think it'll be a lot harder for a proposal to be successful if it tries to work for all of them. Now, that is an option technically, but I would think as an artist, it would be hard to design something that would work in all 4 equally well. I'll just put it that way. But prove us wrong.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
As a host, I think an artist who understands our location might come up with our location as the inspiration for their piece as well, so that there's a relationship being built. That doesn't mean it has to be that way, but I think it could generate some very interesting art.
Yeah, and these particular 4 locations are so different one from the other. So I really, from my perspective, an artist would do well to pick the location that speaks to them and focus on that location. But if you have a brilliant idea, go for it.
All right, next, again, Annie, you are popular today. More details, they're requesting more details about the surface that the Gobo projectors would project on. Is it a sidewalk? Is it a wall? They also want to know if workshops are a component of the proposal, would that have to happen on site at the skate park? Because the call also makes reference to nearby locations.
I will say that I don't know I think the Gobo can be adjusted to, I think when we initially discussed it with the planners of the park, it was for the walkways, so not the skate bowls specifically. But again, like depending on what the proposal is, I think we're very willing to try to make something work. So I think the initial discussion was along the walkways that surround the skate park, and then they're between the skate park and the water. And then as far as other locations, sure, why not? As long as it relates to the coast and coastal flooding, which we're all thinking so much about right now. Yeah.
Great answer. All right, the next question is for everyone, or at least all of the locations who were open to performing arts proposals. This artist is really looking for clarification about what is sought in terms of audience participation. So for a performing arts show, would the audience need to be involved during the performance? or would a Q&A discussion after, or a talk about what the audiences could do to help with climate resilience, would that suffice? And actually, before we turn to the CBOs, I'll note that we do actually address this in the call a little bit. The expectation is community engagement would be during perhaps the, putting that, if you're doing performing arts show, you might want to engage with the community while you're developing the work, right? Really getting them engaged so that they don't just show up to see a show and listen to you talk afterwards. The idea is that the community is engaged in the actual development of the work in some way.
Right.
But I'd love to hear if CBOs or others have thoughts on that.
So we have an indoor stage, which has capacity for about 200, 250 people max indoors. We're on 22.5 acres. And so there's a lot of outdoor spaces. We host outdoor concerts on a regular basis. We have a lot of space for outdoor performances. Again, weather dependent, but we're pretty versatile.
Yeah, and to Daniela's point, it might be helpful to think of your project as an experience for the local community. Like Danielle said, just putting on a show or putting on an exhibition and then having them come see it is very different than providing them with an artistic and educational experience. And I think I italicize, community engagement in a real way, and get creative with it and do a little research about the community.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can definitely concur. In Camden specifically, it is extremely important to our community and residents to be included in these types of creative projects. So we do a lot of serving with our artists, a lot of community engagement activities, workshops, even community paint days, community construction days, and the community loves it. So I would definitely say to give that thought in your proposals and to factor that into the budget and things like that, so that you can really present something that will be impactful to the community.
I can also add that, for example, today is at the foundation, we have Barnegat Bay Day, and we've partnered with around 15 nonprofits that deal with the coast, coastal flooding, resiliency, et cetera. It's an all-day event for families and children. And it's a very important community event. And we have other events like that so that you can engage not only with adults, but also families and children. Again, it depends on your project and what your objectives are. But it is educational in nature.
And I'll just add that, engaging with the community and developing the work for performing works might not mean they help you compose the music or they help you set the choreography or write the play. It might be, as Jaslyn talked about, surveying the community and asking for their stories about coastal flooding or the impact of, lack of climate resilience versus climate resilience, hearing from the community about their experiences around this topic and having that inspire your composition or your performance in some way. So, there is some room there for being inspired by what these communities are experiencing and interpreting that in your work, and then inviting them to come see how you've interpreted their experiences in the artwork. You could also, hands-on art making experiences are great. Maybe the community is helping with costuming or with sets or with some other part of this work. But yeah, I think, a proposal to just show them what you've made and talk to them about what you've made in a, sort of one and done is not going to be a very likely successful proposal for this kind of project, because that community engagement is so important.
And Danielle, I think a good example of that was from the last cycle of this program, right? Was it a Perkins Center for the Arts? And I believe it was like a shadow puppet cranky animation thing.
Yes, it was Crankies.
But the artists got stories from the community that the artist then incorporated into the performance.
Yeah, that's a great example, Kristen. All right, so next question. We've got about 10 minutes left in our time here together. I want to try to get through the next, looks like there are 20 messages still. For the proposal, should the timeline include community engagement beginning during the development period from November to March, or should most public engagement happen once the installation is underway in spring, fall 2027?
Well, I guess after the artists are selected, those artists will be working with their partner organizations, and you'll figure that out. I would expect that, you know, after the planning stage between the artist and the organization will be its own project, and then community outreach of any kind would happen once implementation starts in the spring. That's my guess, how it would work out. But every project is going to be unique, so it might play out differently. But I would expect on the timeline, like it would start in the springtime, next spring.
Yeah, unless there's some special event, you know, make it May Day or something happening where the artist is like, hey, I think we should take advantage of this. And the CBO is like, yes, we should.
Exactly. It's like all these, we expect each of these projects to be really different, so, and unique. So it's hard to have like a one size fits all rule in terms of when and how you reach out to the community.
Right, the next question, since the art is not permanent, does the artwork return to the artist at the end of the program?
The answer is yes, right, Danielle?
The answer is yes.
That's part of your proposal, is what do you do when it's over, and how do you plan on getting your art back where it belongs?
The next question might be for you, Devin, or for me. What was the inspiration for this call? Other than raising awareness, was there a specific event that sparked this idea?
So the idea behind the whole project, a lot of times, especially being a DEP employee, a lot of the things that we release to the public are very data heavy. Climate change is a scary, not fun topic that we talk about. And we want to make it easy and digestible to the public. I mean, they're the ones living in it. So we want to hear what they have to say. We want them to understand what's going on. We want to make it fun to learn about, and not just data overload, make it a heavier topic than it has to be. So we wanted to work together with another state agency, the State Council on the Arts, to work together with these communities one-on-one and really get the communities what they needed. Danielle, feel free to add anything that you would like to.
Thanks. You know, the DEP actually called us at the Arts Council and said, hey, we're applying for this federal grant and we'd love to do something with artists and art to help communicate, you know, about climate resilience and coastal flooding. And we love getting those kind of phone calls in our agency, especially because that, you know, they were bringing the funding to this project. And as a grant making agency, that doesn't happen to us very often. And they're great partners and we love working with them. And that's really how this started, you know, as Devin said, around these ideas of how to make more resilient communities in our state understand the impacts of climate change and coastal flooding. Yeah, that's it. And, you know, over the years, we've sort of every year try to refine the program and the process and make it easier for everybody to, you know, engage with art and artists and these scary but approachable topics. Next question. Chris, you mentioned including a budget in the proposal, and could you give the artists idea about how to best structure that? For example, how specific should it be? Itemized supplies or categories, for instance?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the more detail, it's a proposal, but the more details, the better. The clearer you are about your budget, the better. So there's again, no one size fits all, but I mean, and everybody budgets differently, I guess, has different budgeting styles, but I don't think it's too ambitious to make out at least a rough budget that makes sense. You know, if you're good with Excel or something like that, great. If not, you can do it, you know, long form. But if you're going through the trouble of making this proposal, I think it makes a lot of sense to figure out what money is being spent on what.
I mean, I would add and agree that we expect artists will get paid for their time, right? So make sure that you're not shy about saying this is the artist fee for this work. If you have to travel or say stay overnight at the shore, which could be expensive, make sure you're factoring in what that's going to cost. If you're proposing, 50 trips back and forth from North Jersey to LBI, do the mileage, do the tolls, make sure the budget accommodates that. Conversely, if you're like, I'm going to come make solid gold jewelry with everyone, but you don't actually show the math on that, probably not going to be a successful proposal. You definitely want to say, hey, this feels like a lot of money, but it's a big project, and I want to ensure that I can buy the supplies that I need. If I have to rent equipment, that's included. At my time, if I'm paying, dancers or performers in some way. Essentially, what they're really looking for in that proposal budget is that you've looked at that amount of money and that it can sustain what it is that you're proposing. Right. So if you're saying, I want to do all of these things, we want to make sure that you've actually thought about it and run the math and made sure that that budget will allow you to do all of those things. I think that's the level of detail we're looking for. So supplies for my art project and classes equals $5,000. And you don't have to tell us what all of them are, but tell us that you've done the math.
Yeah, and going through that is going to help you plan your project.
Yeah.
I also just
All right.
wanted to add in, sorry, really quick. I just wanted to add in, you don't have to be crazy specific, but try to add as much detail as you can. If we just see $10,000 in materials, make sure it makes sense to someone not completely understanding the project. Just so we don't have any outstanding questions that we're like, we just don't know how they're going to use this.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, so we're going to try to go speed round as much as we can. For Amy at Atlantic County Utilities Authority, is there indoor space at the Egg Harbor Environmental Park that is open to the public or could be used for a phase of the project that requires lower light conditions?
That requires lower light conditions. We do have a lot of space inside of our recycling center, including a large 2-story wall. We have other wall space. We have some meeting rooms. I'm not too sure about the lower light part of the question.
So it sounds to me like, say, if someone was going to have to turn down the lights for maybe showing a movie, right?
Okay.
Old school style
Yes.
or overhead projectors,
Yes,
that would
definitely.
be possible in a
Mhm.
public space.
Yes.
All right. There's another question about the potential sites measurements. So the site details document online is the information that we are providing. There are not measurements of every possible space listed on that document, namely because there's so many options that would not be possible for us to do that. And the artist asking about site visits. Are site visits allowed? We encourage you to visit any of the spaces that are open to the public during the times that they're open to the public. The CBOs are not going to make an appointment to walk you through some place after hours or a place that's not public. That's not a reasonable expectation for them. But yeah, feel free to go visit these places. They all have public programs and are open to the public, certain days and times. A question, is it acceptable or encouraged for the artwork to intentionally change over the duration of the exhibition? So for instance, circling back to what Daniela was talking about, if this piece were exposed to tides, salt, wind, flooding, the ocean, provided it remains safe, is that acceptable? Anyone against that idea? Sounds like that could be acceptable. How many proposals do we get or expect? I have no idea. I don't know. In the past, we've had 8 and we've had 40. Really depends on kind of the, maybe the time of year, maybe the different organizations that are represented. Based on the high number of people who registered for and then actually showed up for this webinar, I'm going to expect this will be fairly competitive. So the next question, the Hoboken call references posters in high traffic areas. Could that be utilized for art? And if so, should the printing costs be in the budget?
I would say probably and yes.
Excellent. Someone wants to know if this call comes out every year and are awarded artists excluded from future calls. For the most part, yes. We did have sort of a gap here between the last call and this one, but that had more to do with changes in the funding that comes from the federal government and sort of a timeline that got extended there. Awarded artists are not